Now to a national case that's gotten worldwide attention. In a strange twist, accused killer Luigi Mangione accepted $300,000 in donations from supporters as he fights murder charges in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The December 4 Legal Committee is spearheading a fundraiser on the website Give, Send, Go for Mangione's legal defense to help pay for his legal bills. There's even a goal of $500,000. Mangione faces federal murder charges that could land him the death penalty. So let's take a legal deep dive into this high-profile case. Criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz joins me once again. Hector, when I checked this Give, Send, Go website just 2 days ago, since then it's jumped over $50,000. Now, in just the last hour I just checked, it's shot up another $2,000 to over $376,000. Does this legal fundraiser, does that sound bizarre to you?
No, not bizarre. It goes on. It does go on. We'll talk about another one that happened just recently. But I think really there's nothing bizarre about this case. I think it's beyond bizarre in terms of you have people that are really blaming the failing healthcare system, and saying that he is justified in his conduct for doing this. And so there are a lot of issues. There are a lot of people that maybe rightfully so are angry about the system and are ignoring some of the evidence that it just seems very, very clear that you have somebody who acted here in a premeditated fashion in murdering the CEO.
So what are some other examples of high-profile cases where there's a legal fundraiser?
It happens a lot, and there are state and federal rules that you have to follow when a nonprofit is setting up this kind of fundraising for legal costs. But the one that I think stands out to me is one that was set up for the January 6th defendants by a nonprofit, and they actually hosted a benefit, and it was hosted at a private golf club owned by none other than President Donald Trump. And so it was hosted there, and the funds were going to go straight for the legal defense of the January 6th defendants. And there are others that happen.
And again, it's perfectly legal. I mean, they can take this money and use it towards the bills, the legal bills. I'm
going to play lawyer. I'm going to say presumably legal. And so, there are certain things that they have to do in terms of setting up these funds and making sure that, the funds are going to where they're supposed to be going. And in this case, his legal defense team accepted those funds. I'm surely they vetted, to make sure everything was fine, and they accepted it.
Wow. And prosecutors, I mean, this is going to not have any kind of effect on the case at all, or anything?
Prosecutors might come in if appropriate in the federal system. Again, we're talking about the federal case, and they might make a challenge if they think there's some kind of inappropriateness, but doubtful. I think here that if these funds are legitimate and they followed all the rules, I think that money goes into their retainer.
Okay. Something else that struck me, last week a judge appointed a death penalty expert to Mangione's defense team. Why, and what's the purpose of having a death penalty expert?
He's got incredibly capable lawyers. He's got, 2 lawyers that are very versed in federal and state court.
Right, very experienced.
But the death penalty is on the table here. The federal prosecutors have not indicated whether they're going to seek the death penalty, but he's eligible for it because of committing the murder using a handgun. And, the court here procedurally applied the rule and said, we're going to get you a death penalty expert. And the gentleman that was appointed is very versed. I'm sure that they welcomed this add to their defense team and said, by all means, I mean, they recognize they have an uphill battle.
Right.
And in order to ensure that they are affording him, the top legal defense, they
eyes wide open.
Absolutely.
Yeah, going into everything and looking at every corner. All right, Hector, thank you so much for all your expert analysis on all 3 cases. We appreciate it.
Thank you.